What's on, where and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. Talk Nelson Radio. Sport. The Mako Rugby Roundup.
You're with the Mako Rugby Roundup, and it is our pleasure to welcome Mako NPC manager Stu Hunter. Stu is in his second season as manager of the mighty Tasman Mako. Welcome to the show, Stu. And Sunday was pretty unusual, wasn't it, for match day with a 4.5 hour delay? How did the team's routine change to allow for that later start?
Well, firstly, thanks for having me on this morning. And Sunday was certainly a bit unique, but really, we're going to go back to Saturday because 6:30 p.m. Sunday was the time. There was a fair bit of toing and froing, so if we went back to 6:30 p.m. Saturday when we first had winds that the boys coming from the deep south via Wellington ended up in Palmy and then had to bus down to Wellington to get across to us. So quite a few wee moving parts.
Wow.
There, but, it didn't affect us too badly actually because we were already over in Blenheim. So it just meant tweaking a couple of things.
And what were those things you had to tweak, mate?
So what we had to look at was a 4.5 hour change. Originally 2:05 kickoff. We're pretty compressed in the morning. You get up, boys eat around about sort of 7 o'clock, and then you'll have your 4 hour before kickoff pre-match meal. So obviously we had to push everything forward. So to put it basically, we added in a lunch and pushed forward 4 hours. Sounds easy. Probably the biggest thing was, the boys adjusting to that as well, which they did. They did really well.
So despite all of your disruptions, Stuart, Southland showed real character, especially in the second half, didn't they?
They sure did. And look, Les, to be honest, 12 minutes into the game, I thought I was going to need a bigger score sheet.
Yeah.
Obviously, half-time, 27-10, we were going pretty well. But then, I suppose the simplest form, the foot got taken off the accelerator and certainly Southland came back into the game, which is really credit to them for considering the disruptions they'd had the day before, and they didn't actually arrive in Blenheim until 3 o'clock on game day, so they did very well.
Stu, the performance of Marty Banks was also pretty impressive in the second half for them. He certainly used the change of wind conditions and put us under a lot of pressure territory-wise, did he not?
He did, and I think that shows the quality of Marty. He obviously knows Blenheim well, as far as he's played on that ground many a time for the Mako in the past. Last year when we played Southland and Blenheim as well, he took real control there, and I think it just showed the quality of him. He's got so much time. He can spot the gap in the backfield and place the ball in there beautifully. So no, there's still a wee bit of fair bit of rugby left, and I don't want to say the old fella because he's still only young, I suppose.
Well, the young player opposite him, our own Campbell Parada, also played rather well, especially in that first half, and he got the Mako Man Award from his teammates. He
sure did. Like he had a great game. He has really come back from his time with the Western Force during Super Rugby. He's come back a lot more confident, and he's taking the opportunity created at the moment. Well, Mitch Hunt's returning to play, and clearly, it's a very, very pivotal position, the number 10, and good on Campbell. He'll be wearing that jersey again tomorrow down in Dunedin as well.
Yeah, well, he certainly gives the ball a thump, whether it's out of the hand or off the tee. Look, the Mako, as you say, did start off with a hiss and a roar. You mentioned that you thought you were going to need a longer score sheet. And 3 tries were up, 27 points to 10. We're interested, you obviously review the performance. And any thoughts that came out of that review as to what were the causes for the hiccup in the second half?
Probably just, as I said earlier, being up, things are going well, taking the foot off the accelerator or the foot off the throat or whatever we want to use this day and age. And there's a couple of other factors. You never use things like the weather as a factor, but I know where I was standing sideline, it dropped about 5 degrees not long after half time. There was a wee bit of wind change, but no, I think more than anything, probably just mindset led. First game of the season, everyone's keen to get out there and get the job done, but then just taking that foot off the accelerator, there's some good learnings. I think that's probably the key thing going into round 2.
Stu, we're on the way to Otago, but before we preview that match, can you tell us a bit about your life in rugby leading up to joining the Mako? That was last year.
So, like most young Kiwi lads, you grow up with a ball in your hand, and from down in Christchurch. So for me, it was a typical sort of 5-year-old starting out playing for the Sydenham club, which is my family club down there, and then made my way through the junior ranks there, St Bede's College for a couple of years. Left there at the end of the 5th form back in those days, so never experienced first 15 rugby, but was lucky enough to play a lot of senior Division 2 and some Premier Rugby for the Sydenham and Shirley clubs in Christchurch. And then sort of from there, had a bit of a break from rugby. My wife had delivered me a daughter, which sort of changed my mindset on rugby for a few years. But in 2010, had the opportunity to get back into rugby, and I was lucky enough as a young fella back when I was playing senior rugby. My father was the manager of the Premier team at Sydenham. Over a 4-year period, he was involved there where they won 4 championships back to back, which for any club is amazing. So coming into management, I had my father as someone who I knew had done a very good job, very meticulous. So ended up managing the senior Premier team. Did 3 years there. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Got to work with a lot of what are now household names with players, which is really neat when you can sort of look back and think you were part of that player's journey. And then 2012 had the opportunity to go into the rep ranks. Bit of a different one. Started with the Canterbury Sevens program. Thoroughly enjoyed the time in 7-a-side rugby. As a manager, you're only dealing with 12 players rather than 30. Yeah. So quite a bit easier. And from there into the Canterbury Under-19 program at the time that program started in 2014. New Zealand Rugby had introduced a national Under-19 competition, played up in Taupo, and I was lucky enough to manage that team for 5 campaigns. Won a national tournament in 2015 with the likes of Brett Cameron, Geordie Barrett, Charlie Gamble, who's with the Waratahs now, and quite a few other boys who are all playing NPC or Super Rugby. So at the same time as that, was also been involved heavily with what was called the Crusader Knights, which is the Crusader development team, involved with them for 7 seasons as well. And in that time is where I really got to meet a lot of people outside of Canterbury, the Tasman tie-up in there. So working with the likes of Andrew Goodman and Dan Perrin, but then also, being involved with a lot of the players who today are in the Mako. So coming in last year, big boots to fill with Marty Verco obviously departing and heading to the Chiefs. And coming in last year after phone call from Andrew Goodman telling me what a lovely place Nelson is in the winter, and a great place to manage rugby. I find myself in my second season now and loving every minute of it.
Well, you're fitting in rather well, and your style and manner reminds me of Marty. I know you are your own man, but it strikes me that around the players you can be a lot of fun, friendly guy, but when it's necessary, you can be quite firm with them. So I think that's a credit, and it's what's required at this level, is it not?
Oh, absolutely. Like, at the end of the day, we're all here, to be here for rugby. At the MPC level, it's our job during that campaign. But I've got a great motto that I work off, and Les, you've probably seen it in my office. It's something that I come across a couple of years ago where, the game only lasts 80 minutes. Most of the time is spent off the field, so smile. So that's something I keep pretty close to me because, you got to have fun. Rugby's perceived as being a pretty grim sport at times, but for me it's about being here, doing what I can for the team. We've got a really big emphasis as a management group, as a union, of caring for our people, and obviously our people are our players. So that's something which I work hard on. Yeah, there's times where you got to have a bit of a sterner talk to people, but we don't have those very often, touch wood.
Just harping back to your Crusader Knights times, some of our players that you managed then who have really gone on, kicked on, can you name a couple? Tell us how they went on.
So 2015, the Crusader Knights played a midweek game against the Hurricanes Hunters, funnily enough they were called, in Porirua on a Wednesday at 2 o'clock. For me, it was taking a day off work, but it was the year that the All Blacks were going to the World Cup, so we had quite a few All Blacks returning to play, and I sat next to a very, very shy boy from Motueka, and that was David Havili. So he was coming through the ranks then. The following year, we had a Crusader Knights team, which the photo of the team surfaced last year, and it was amazing. We had Mitch Hunt, we had Purry Parkinson, Alex Nankivell, Shannon Frizzell, Quinton Strange, and a few other notable names. And each year with the Crusader Knights, you would have players either returning from injury or from outside the match day 23. So the likes of Andrew Makaleo, Sione Havili, right through to Leicester, Vainganuku, and in more recent times, with the involvement I'd also had with the Crusader under-20s, the likes of Mako Springer coming through. So yeah, it's been a real good pathway for the players coming through that program.
Mate, you're heading down to the airport to get the team ready for the Dunedin game. How's the week been, and any major changes to the team?
It's been a typical week in rugby. People get to turn the TV on, and if they're lucky, maybe get 5 minutes before the game starts, and they see the boys run out on the field looking really sharp in their nice clean kit and everything. Yeah. Obviously, there's a wee bit precedes that. We've had a really good training week. Obviously, robust review at the beginning of the week. Changes to the team. There's a couple in there. Quinton McDonald in his 102nd game will come in at hooker. Andrew Makaleo has twinged a hamstring. Tiari Wahu starts at number 4 alongside Quinton Strange. Hugh Renton will move to the back of the scrum with Anton Segner sitting out a couple of weeks with concussion. So really it just sort of changes the bench. We've got all 4 of our Tongan internationals will be in the match day 23. We've got Fatuli coming in onto the bench this week, and Sam Molly obviously Willie Havili's there alongside Sione Havili, so really good numbers from that Tongan group. And just to, keep the manager on his toes and the medical crew, Matt Graham-Williams has been replaced on the bench by Atu Moli after one of Matt's flatmates has tested positive for COVID. So there's always something happening, there's always something hiding around the corner, but that's what makes this role that little bit more exciting.
Clearly never easy, but always fun. Stu, we want to wish you all the very best. First of all, safe travels, but then get stuck in tomorrow. We look forward to watching you running around at 2:05 p.m. at Forsyth Bar Stadium.
Sounds great. Thanks for your time, guys, and fins up.
Thanks very much, Stu. Fins up, mate. There you go. Stu Hunter, who is the manager of the Tasman Mako, and it's a busy role, isn't it? Because, it's one of those roles where, it's not often you're able to get in front of the camera or you're on show. But even after the game finishes, that's really when your job begins, and it's full steam ahead until the next game.
Yeah, it's an attention to detail role.
Yeah.
If you're not methodical and organised and practical and pragmatic, right? Because you could imagine if you had too much emotional tie, and it could do your head in, with injuries and last-minute changes due to COVID or things like that. So attention to detail is clearly something Stu Hunter's got. He's a wonderful guy around the office too. Knows all of the staff extremely well and is a connector. He connects with everybody. A pleasure to have him in the office.
And it's also, knowing all the rules and regs, filling out team cards, when you can make subs. It's all those little refined details that you have to be on top of, which sometimes, even during a game, can be quite full on.
Yeah, so, if you're not used to it, you could really stuff it up. I'm absolutely certain of that.
And obviously good pedigree with where he's come from with his background in Christchurch.
He's been at it quite a while now, and so seriously, a good call by Andrew Goodman and now Dan Perrin to ask him to be the boss. The gaffer, as they call it.
The gaffer. Good term. Well, that was the gaffer, Stu Hunter, the Tasman team manager.
The Mako Rugby Roundup. It's the talk of Nelson. Talk Nelson Radio.